Hello there. Um, I am coming to you live from my car because I still am too embarrassed to let my roommate hear any of this. And my roommate is home and the walls are paper thin. It's all hardwood in there, so sound carries. So I'm out in my car for a little privacy for this. As counterintuitive as that is. So I've probably put the title as something that is a clear giveaway as to the topic. APS, Attenuated Psychosis Syndrome. Something that I hadn't heard of until recently, but I believe it's what I've been going through. Um, so we have a lot of context to establish. This is going to be a long watch. You might want to get comfortable for that, especially because I have a way of speaking that is very meandering and circular and, as my counselor puts it, excessively detail focused. And I think it's related to the disorder that I believe I have. So we're going to start there. We'll start there. Why not? So my diagnostic journey has been complicated, especially in that I don't believe I've ever really had a strict diagnosis yet so far. You see, the thing is, I just recently had my first intake appointment or whatever for neuropsych testing, which is the first time I've ever done that. And it was just the intake, so there was a lot of just establishing who I am and stuff like that. Not any of the actual testing process necessarily. So I can't speak to the results of that yet. It'll be a while from what I can tell before I know anything in that regard. But people who have seen me, like my prescriber, she's a nurse practitioner, counselors that I've seen, etc., have put things on my chart that are diagnoses, but they saw me for an hour or whatever, and they put down their best guess, So in that context, within those parameters, initially they told me schizoaffective, depressed type, which is not accurate. Everyone I've seen since then has agreed with me on that. So that's out, I think, even though it was on my record at one point. The next one I got after that, a counselor that I saw for a while put down borderline personality disorder. I don't think that's accurate, and neither does my prescriber or my current counselor. They both have down schizotypal personality disorder, which is the one that I've been saying since the beginning, since even before schizoaffective. And that's also why I think that I ramble and meander and weave through a topic rather than getting to the fucking point, because that's a really typical thing for schizotypal. Is they say odd-eccentric speech, behavior, and appearance, and the odd-eccentric speech is often rambling, excessively detail-focused, etc. So, and also pauses, frequent pauses. So yeah, I think that one's probably it. I kind of expect that the testing will bear that out, but maybe it won't. I don't know yet. But for now, that's what I'm going with, schizotypal. There is kind of a crossover here. The main topic of today being APS, and my thoughts of schizotypal being that these are two different conditions that both have this sort of attenuated psychotic quality. So APS being an episode of this, whereas schizotypal is consistent over time. I think, don't quote me on that, I am not a professional in any way. I'm just someone who is suffering from either of these disorders. That's my impression, is that the difference between the two is that APS is an episode, whereas schizotypal, you're just like that, like all the time. So that's kind of also where I don't really know, though, because I feel like I haven't had the sort of attenuated psychotic features my entire life. I've certainly been very strange my entire life. Some of this is going to be very embarrassing for me to admit, but oh God. I don't want to say it, but for documentary purposes, for the sake of the information existing for other people who might be going through this, I'm going to embarrass myself here. Shit like, for example, in elementary school, I insisted on wearing kilts because my family we're of a Scottish-Irish background. I'm from Appalachia originally, and a lot of the white settlers in Appalachia, in the 1700s through 1800s, a lot of them were Scots-Irish coming over, during times of hardship in their homeland. And so, I don't know, I watched Braveheart with my dad when I was a kid and stuff, and I was just it was a part of my identity, I guess. It has nothing to do with me now. I don't own any fucking kilts anymore or anything. It's all embarrassing to me now. But still, on the topic of odd or eccentric behavior, speech, and appearance, those three, odd or eccentric, those things, have been qualities of my life, to a huge extent. It's never been subtle, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I've always been, I stand out in a room, and I don't like that, because I don't like attention as much as, people think that if you have any kind of distinctive look that you only do it for attention, there's no other reason to be that way. Not true. There are people who hate attention, and yet they look really odd, and a lot of them may in fact have this disorder. That is another feature of schizotypal, is a persistent social anxiety that doesn't diminish with familiarity. I mean, considering I don't even make eye contact with my own brother, who I grew up in the same household as, I feel like I'm a shoo-in for that diagnostic criterion as well. Anyways, to leave some of my diagnostic history and get back to APS, I kind of wanted to share my experience, really sort of so that other people who go through this may have some idea of what to expect, but also, so that they can hear someone else saying all of the things that they've been feeling and know that, they're not the only person that this has ever happened to. They're not imagining it. They're right to feel the way that they feel. Because a lot of this time I've been wondering, if I am a pretender or malingering or something. I feel illegitimate. I feel like I don't get to claim any of these diagnostic labels for myself, because you're not supposed to self-diagnose, and also because a psychotic disorder is a very serious condition, and it's also very mythologized and romanticized for what fucking reason I couldn't tell you. But there's just a lot of a sort of pop culture aura around these conditions. And so a lot of people, through sheer ignorance, I suppose, might be attracted to the idea of claiming one of these disorders because it has some kind of edgy aura to it. I don't know. I don't know why people are the way that they are, why this shit fascinates them. I suppose it is interesting, but to go through it is very different from seeing a movie that depicts a very flawed version of it. You see, I'm just going off script. There's no script, but I'm wandering. That's one thing about these disorders, is they make it really fucking hard to keep a train of thought. Fuck. Shit. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I've been wondering if I'm just a pretender. Because, like... So I had not heard of attenuated psychosis before. I thought that there was only one kind of psychosis, and that is full-blown, in which you have no awareness that these things are unreasonable for you to be thinking, or that these things may not be real. For people in full-blown psychosis, it's all totally fucking real. And so for me to be having similar sorts of thoughts, but still be able to question them, just had me thinking that, like, maybe everybody is like this, and I'm just freaking out about totally normal thoughts. Which, in hindsight, like, I was scared that people were reading my mind. Those are not totally normal thoughts that everyone has. I mean, maybe sometimes you think, like, oh, what if, and you can, like, entertain the notion, but it's not like a thing where, like, I was walking around at work, like, trying to stay physically away from people because I was afraid if I got too close that they would begin to know things about me that I don't want them to know, very private stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't want them to know anything about, like, God, my sexuality. Like, if I happen to be thinking about, like, an ex or something, like, that would be really embarrassing for me. Like, I don't want my personal life to be the talk of the workplace. And so I was, like, trying to physically avoid people because it was, like, a proximity thing. I felt like if they got too close, they might be able to listen in somehow. And so, and even when I was, like, too close to somebody and I didn't have the option to get further away, I would choose not to think about things that I didn't want them to know, because I was afraid that if it was in my stream of consciousness that it would be easier for them to peer in on it. Which is all crazy. And I knew it was crazy, even at the time. Like, I was having these thoughts and they were causing me anxiety, and yet at that same time, in that same moment, I could realize that, like, no one has ever been able to demonstrate, like, a reliable telepathic ability. Like, there will be plenty of people who claim to be telepaths, but every time they're put to the test, it's a coin flip as to whether they'll get shit right or not. Like, it's totally bogus. No one's ever been able to prove it. It's never been a repeatable, demonstrable thing. And yet, like, it scares me. And it just fucks me up, because I grew up, like, before this started happening to me, throughout my teens, all the way through my mid-20s, I was, like, a hardline skeptic. Like, I came from, like, there was, like, a sort of popular atheist movement in, like, the late 2010s or so, until, like, the Gamergate shit blew it all up. Anyways, we don't need to get into that. But that's kind of where I came from. Like, I was into that movement as it was happening. And so, like, ideas of, like, rationalism and skepticism and, like, oh, fucking James Randi Foundation, fucking whatever. Like, that's where I come from. And so for me to suddenly think that people could hear my thoughts was very unusual for me. Like, it was just a foreign, like, it felt like it was coming from somewhere else, like, not from me, because I know that that's not something that I believe in. But I couldn't stop myself. Or things like, since this started happening, I'll see numbers and I'll think, like, that means I have that many years left to live. Or, like, if it's close to my age, like, I'm 31, so say it's, like, 35 or something, it'll be like, okay, 35 is the age at which I'll die, or something like that. And it's like, what? Like, you're looking at the price of a shirt, sure, whatever. Like, this number has absolutely nothing to do with you in any way. And yet, like, I get this awful, like, gut-sinking, like, pit opening up in my stomach feeling of, like, grand destiny when I look at just a random fucking number that means nothing. And that's just what's so strange about this. What's so uncomfortable about it is being in both worlds at the same time, being able to feel yourself going crazy and to look at yourself as if you're another person and like almost feel pity for yourself. Like, oh, this poor motherfucker's just losing it. This guy's just a nut job. Like, that's the way I fucking think about myself now, because I kind of am. And I can't help it. Like, another experience I had, I was watching a YouTube video about, it was like a book review thing, and it was like multiple books. It was just a roundup of like horror books that this guy was reviewing, and one of them had like themes of child abuse and stuff, and he was like, if you've had such and such life experiences, this book will speak to you. And when he said that, my first thought was that he was talking to me, not like me as an audience member, but that he was talking to me specifically. And that I was supposed to see the video, and that the whole point of the video is that it was a secret message for me to read this book. And again, even in that moment, as I was having that thought, and like my heart was starting to race, and I was like, oh my God, like how does he know? Like what is going on? Can he see me right now? And I'm sitting there also thinking, like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like, that was a general statement about a demographic of people who all have had a similar life experience. Like, of course he's not talking to you specifically. You just happen to be in that demographic with millions of other people. So it's that attachment of salience to things that are not actually related to you. I don't know. I feel like I didn't used to do that before. So to rewind a little bit again, sorry. I'm sorry. I speak the way I think, and this is unfortunately the way I think. It's a mess. Which is another thing that changed. But anyways, speaking of things changing, when I say that, this started happening around 2 years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago. So like I said, I'm 31 now. Do the math on your own time as to how old that made me. Like late into the age of 28, early into the age of 29, somewhere in there is when this started. Which for like the onset age window for schizophrenia, like most cases are diagnosed in like the late teens to early 20s, not late 20s to early 30s. So I would hope that that's a point in the favor of me not actually being in schizophrenia prodrome and instead just having schizotypal, the fact that it struck me so late. But then again, I thought schizotypal had to be a lifelong thing, and a lot of these traits, aside from the weirdness and the social anxiety, those have always been part of my life. But a lot of this weird thinking started about 2 to 1.5 years ago. Leading up to it, like, there were no, like, traumatic events. Like, there wasn't, like, a thing that triggered this. Aside from maybe losing my job at the time, put me under a lot of stress. I was already in, like, multiple thousands of dollars of credit card debt from the last multiple times that I had lost my job. I'm a job loser. I quit or get fired a lot. I can't help it. I have a hard time getting along with authority, but that was one of the reasons why they probably thought I was borderline. Anyways. So, losing my job put me in a really stressful spot financially. And the job market nowadays is fucked. And I didn't do any schooling after high school either, and I have no, like, informal specialized training. Like, I'm just very much just a random general labor jobber. So there's not a lot of prospects for me on a good day, and it hasn't been a good day in a couple decades. So anyways, I lost my job at the time. That put me under a lot of stress. But aside from that, like, I mean, I was lifting weights most days of the week. I was running an hour every day that it was above 55 degrees and not raining. And I was still doing that as I started to noticed that I was becoming odd. I was souring like milk in the head, and I was still running at the time. It was only after I noticed and sought treatment that like a depressive spell hit that really took me off my feet and I quit running. But anyways, so it was really related to the running is when I started to notice things. Is I started to get really paranoid about people following me while I was out running. Like I would look at a car, and if I felt like I had seen the same car more than once, I was like, oh my god, they're like circling the block following me. They want to see where I live. They're gonna follow me, and like they're mistaking me for a woman, and so they're gonna follow me home and try to rape me, and blah blah blah. Like weird shit like that. But also like police. Like I was getting really worried about like, you know, I live in an area that is fairly high traffic in the city. We're fairly close to downtown, so police pass by often. This is probably a patrol route or something, the route that I run. And so I kept getting paranoid that like maybe they were keeping tabs on me. Like maybe I was known to them and they were just kind of monitoring my activities. Again, a lot of this is really embarrassing to get into. I have to apologize. I'm mortified to be admitting a lot of this. It's really embarrassing. So I was getting more and more paranoid about police and like people following me and the police following me and blah blah blah. And my friends were picking up on it. And I was like talking one night, I was like, oh my god, this cop was following me on my way home from my run and blah blah blah. And my friends were like, dude, the police are not following you. Like, you're being paranoid as shit. Quit it. They were really calling me out on it. And like I had to stop and think, and I was like, you know, I do sound a little unhinged. They're not wrong. And that was like when I first started to notice. That was like the very beginning of me noticing it. At that time, I did not interpret it as me becoming psychotic. I thought that my PTSD was getting worse. Which, like, I've been diagnosed with PTSD consistently since the mid-2010s. So it's kind of old hat for me. And so I was like, oh, that's weird. I don't know why I'm having such an issue with paranoia now, like a decade after the fact, after I felt like I had done so much healing and was past all that shit. But okay, whatever. I just took it for what it was. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to have to, I'm at a different stage in my recovery, and I'm going to have to recoup some lost progress, I guess. Happens sometimes, unfortunately. But then that was when I was starting to get the ideas of reference, i.e. the book review video thing, shit like that, or the numbers, all the weird shit like that. Or like hearing turns of phrase, like idiomatic sayings that made me uncomfortable because I would like interpret them as oddly literal. Like if somebody says like curiosity killed the cat or something, like it would make me think like, oh my god, am I actually about to be in mortal peril for my curiosity? Like shit like that. It would just make me really uncomfortable. Like people would say things that were totally benign, but because I interpreted them oddly, like it would just be like this instant pang of dread. Like just the feeling of a noose on your neck all of a sudden, and it's just ugh. And they said something totally fucking normal and like doesn't mean anything, and I'm getting that like I'm over here like, oh god, I'm about to die. Stupid. I feel like I'm missing a lot. It's really hard for me to organize my thoughts. I really should write up scripts or at least keep notes or something that I can reference as I'm doing these. I'm trying to do it chronologically. So that would have been the paranoia about people in public as I'm running, and also the police in general, and the ideas of reference and stuff. I first started to notice that stuff, and I want to say the fall of 2024. October, November, somewhere in there. Um, I think it would have been December that same year that I sought treatment. God, it's kind of difficult to think about now. In a couple of, I mean that in a couple of different ways. It's emotionally difficult to think about, but also it's just practically like it's not very clear in my mind. Um, but yeah, I could tell that something was wrong. I could tell that something was very wrong. So I sought treatment, and I thought either A, schizotypal personality disorder, or B, I was in schizophrenia prodrome, the onset period, for those of you who don't know. The prodromal phase, as they call it. I was like, okay, either that or it's schizotypal, and I don't need to be as worried. So I went seeking a diagnosis, basically. And I was also wondering like if I could get some kind of job accommodations or like get into vocational rehab or something, because I was still out of a job at the time. I thought if there was any program that could help me get a job on the basis of me being psychologically disabled, like that would be great. I need a job. Or if no job, then maybe benefits. But anyways, that was the reason I sought treatment. I was like, maybe they can help me with my situation, and also this could be turning into something really serious, and I would like to know sooner rather than later if that's the direction that I'm headed. And it's just been a whole adventure since then. So, for context, right now, I take 2 antidepressants and an antipsychotic. My antidepressants are Wellbutrin, generic name bupropion, and Remeron, generic name mirtazapine. Those are the 2 antidepressants I take. And the antipsychotic I'm on is Rexulti, generic name brexpiprazole. I only take 1 milligram of the Rexulti a day, which is a low dose. That's the kind of dose that they would give as an adjunct to the antidepressants to treat really severe and or treatment-resistant depression, which my medication regimen has not really touched at all. My depression is bad, and medications famously do not do anything to it. Because I've tried citalopram, I've tried venlafaxine, I've tried sertraline, I'm on the bupropion for the 2nd time now, and this is my first time on mirtazapine. I've tried, what the fuck, what is Lexapro? I don't remember the generic for Lexapro, but I've tried that. I've tried all kinds of shit. And none of them have ever worked. I've never found an antidepressant that made me less depressed. Some of them make me sleep a lot. Some of them make me feel really sick. Most of them, don't do a goddamn thing at all. Like, I totally don't notice a difference taking them. Which is another thing that makes me think personality disorder, because personality disorders famously don't really respond to medication very much. Now, of course, in my case, the more psychotic traits do respond to antipsychotics. But again, I'm on a low dose. But on top of that, considering that it's attenuated in my case, I don't really... Something weird that I found, by the way, if you search attenuated psychosis syndrome on YouTube and you set the duration to over 20 minutes, you will find a bunch of lectures from people who are much more qualified than myself. And what I heard in those lectures was that the use of antipsychotics is not recommended for people suffering from APS. So as much as people might be like, holy shit, this guy needs meds, the doctors say that I don't. So, but I'm on the antipsychotics anyways, because the hope was that they would treat my depression, and they aren't treating my depression, but until something changes, I'm just sticking with my regimen, I guess, even though it's doing nothing. The side effects aren't driving me crazy, so whatever, I guess. I'm just going through the motions, because people will be angry with me if I don't. If I don't take the meds, people will be like, oh, well, of course everything's fucked up. You don't take meds. But then I take the meds and nothing changes. And people are just like, oh, well, I guess that sucks. Too bad for you. And it's just like, you can't fucking win, I guess. Sorry. I'm derailing again. So from there, hallucinations have not really been a thing for me. I get this thing where music pitches up and down. Like it's like a slow down or speed up effect where the pitch is altered, but the speed isn't actually. The tempo remains the same. It's just that it sounds slower or faster because the pitch goes up or down. And it just like bends like that for like a second. It's just a quick bend. And it's really weird. But that's about it as far as any kind of hallucinations go. I have had visual hallucinations on a few occasions in my life. But I say occasions because like I can count on one hand all of the times that I've had a visual hallucination that I'm aware of. There is a spectrum of subtlety, and if things are subtle enough, you may not clock that it's a hallucination. Even if you have awareness, you may just think that your eyes are playing tricks on you, or that, like, I don't know, like if you see a dot in your vision, is it a dot in your vision because you're hallucinating, or is it a dot in your vision because, like, a fly flew past you, Like, it's hard to say sometimes, but I don't think so. I've seen shadow people, like, 2 or 3 times, and that's it. And like, years pass between each time. So I don't think that that's anything. I think that that's kind of benign and unrelated to my condition, probably. But, so yeah, hallucinations haven't really been a thing, thank fuck. I have a really vivid imagination, and I also have terrible nightmares. I think if I started hallucinating, like, visually, that they could probably be really bad for me. So I'm very grateful that it hasn't happened. Let's see, what else? What else did I notice after the paranoia and the ideas of reference? I got more weird about social stuff. Like, I got more withdrawn for sure. I stopped hanging out with anybody. It feels like a tremendous chore to have a conversation. Even in text, like, just to message somebody feels overwhelming. It just feels like so much. And I just feel like I can't manage it. It's like I already got so much on my plate. I'm already so stressed out. Like, no, I don't feel like talking to somebody right now. I don't have it in me, is what it feels like. But also, I don't know. I just got really weird about people seeing me or hearing me without my consent. Like, I just don't like to be seen or heard in general. Like, I remember at some point I said something to somebody, I can't remember who or what the context was, but I was like, I just wish that I could never be seen again. And I think that they took that as me saying that I wish I was dead or that I had gone missing. No, I mean, I wish that when people pointed their eyes in my direction, that they would be unable to see me, is what I meant. I don't like that I appear in people's field of vision. It makes me uncomfortable. That's what I mean. If people ask, like, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? I would like the power of invisibility, and I would be using it right now and all the time. Like, I would just never turn it off. And I wasn't quite like that before. I never liked having attention cast on me. It always felt glaring. But especially since this started happening, it's just, I mean, I don't even go to the fucking store anymore. Like, if I need groceries, I have them delivered. I'm paying more money, and I don't like doing that, but I don't want to fucking go to the store, and the money that I pay to have it delivered is worth it to me. It's like, do I want to pay an extra $20 to avoid going to the store? Like, if you showed up to my doorstep right now and said, hey, I can go get your groceries for you for $20, or you can go do it, dog, I'm gonna pay you $20. That's worth $20 to me. To avoid that. Like, I would pay more to avoid that, to be honest. And it's not about like, oh, I just don't want to go through the hassle. No, it's the people. The people are the issue. I know when I get to the store, there's going to be a shitload of people there, and they're all going to fucking run their eyes all up and down me, and I don't like it. I really don't like it. They tried to put me in group therapy. Because I was, for a time, diagnosed as borderline, they put me in DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, and it's a group at the place that I go to, and I couldn't stand it. I begged to be released from the group. Because, like, for a day or two before each appointment, I could not sleep. I was just going a day or two without sleep before each appointment because it made me so fucking anxious to think about the fact that I was going to have to speak aloud in front of a room full of people. No, thank you. I'm not doing that. So, yeah, I definitely got worse about that when this started to happen to me. So, as for a timeline, it started, like I said, the paranoia and stuff, I started to notice it about 1.5 to 2 years ago. It lasted, like, the most acute. This has never really fully stopped. I still have sort of residual symptoms, but, like, the APS episode, the acute phase of it, lasted for, like, half a year, I want to say. Roughly. It could have been closer to 3 or 4 months. It could have been more like 8 to 10. It's really hard for me to say. It's not like there was an on-off light switch moment where it was obviously happening and then it was obviously not. It's just like things getting worse. And then there's a period where they're just real bad. And then there's a period in which they start to get better. And then you notice one day that it's just been better for a while. And so you're like, okay, so I guess that's over, sort of? Like I said, I still kind of have residual symptoms. I still get ideas of reference. The way that I think has changed and has not gone back. That's something I didn't really get into, is the disorganization of thought. My thinking got more sort of circular. It sort of loops around. The way I describe it, the way I think of it is like, other people's thinking is just a classic drinking straw. It's a straight line, point A to point B. Fluid conveyance works great. My thinking has turned into a crazy straw, where everything has to take this convoluted fucking path for no goddamned reason. And it just takes longer, and it's confusing to achieve the same result. It's really frustrating. But, like, weird things, like, I'll get caught up on a syllable. Like, I can try to replicate it with actual physical speech, but it's going to be really hard. But, like, say I'm trying to get through this sentence right now, and I get caught up on a syllable. I'm trying to do it with speech. It works differently in my head. But like I was doing just now, where I repeat like a single syllable or a single word, and I'm stuck repeating it until I get through it. And then I can finish the thought. Because I think in the form of an internal monologue, it takes the place, it takes the form of the English language inside my head. And so as I'm thinking, I'm sort of like internally speaking, and I have to actually finish the thought. I have to finish that sentence before I can get to the next thought. And so for me to get hung up on these single syllables and just repeat them over and over, like, it takes me several seconds to get through what should be practically an instantaneous thought. Just because I'm getting caught up in my internal monologue, just repeating like a broken record. So that's one example of like a sort of disorganization of thought that I didn't experience before that I do now, I think. or just losing my train of thought. That's gotten a lot worse. That was another one of the earlier things I noticed. That came in around the time of the ideas of reference, I want to say. Like, the paranoia was undeniably the first thing. Next was ideas of reference and disorganization of thought, both sort of kind of kicked in around the same time. The only other thing I can think of would be like perception of reality, or like ideas of reality, like one's opinions of reality, I suppose. Inability to track it. For example, what I mean by that, I struggle to realize whether I'm asleep or awake. There's a lot of reality that just feels awfully much like a dream to me, and my dreams can be realistic enough that sometimes I think they are reality right up until I wake up. I often have to check my phone, like check my messages, check my email to see, like, was I spending money? Like, do I have any transactions logged here? Because I just straight up don't know. Like, you know, I'm waking up in bed, sure, but does that mean that I was asleep, or does that mean that this is a new day and I'm remembering the previous day? I don't know. So I have to actually look for evidence of things. I have to look for evidence that things happened. And that's my way of knowing whether they happened or not, is if I can prove it. Which is really confusing, because if I'm in a dream and I do that and I can prove it in the dream, then how do I know that it's... I don't know. I don't fucking know. I kind of just take things as they come to me and react to situations as genuinely as I can and hope that it's all real. And if it's not, well, then I'm just going to wake up, right? Hopefully. So, God, it's hard to explain. It's hard to even say any of this without sounding like I'm losing my shit on camera. Deja vu is constant. I have a constant sense of deja vu. It's like, am I remembering this? Has this happened before? Am I stuck in a Groundhog Day time loop situation? Is this a dream right now? Is this a dream that I had? Am I remembering a dream? Is this a genuine memory? Or am I going through deja vu again? Well, out of all of those options, considering I can't tell the difference, I'm just going to say it's probably deja vu. And I'm just, because the way that my brain stores memories is now fucked, that's why I'm feeling this way right now. I lost my sexuality. I don't know if I've mentioned that in any of my videos before, but at some point during all of this, I started to experience very severe sexual dysfunction and no libido, and like almost a sort of aphantasia, a lack of the ability to imagine as regards to sex. Oddly, like I can imagine, like if you ask me to imagine an apple right now, I can picture an apple in my head, sure. But if you ask me to imagine having sex, I kind of can't. I've done it before. I have video evidence of that. I'm not gonna, of course it's YouTube, I'm not gonna post it. But I kind of can't imagine it now. And there are other ways in which my imagination is kind of stunted now that I feel like it wasn't before. So struggles with sexuality and also just aphantasia. And I think part of the struggles with sexuality is also a feeling of disconnectedness from my body and reality in general. There's a very like dissociative, depersonalizing, derealizing sort of quality to it. Like feeling like my limbs are just kind of doing their own thing without my control, or feeling like I am in another room, or that I'm like deep down in a hole and I'm like staring up at all of this as it's happening from some dark recess. Again, I know that this is all, if you're hearing this and you've never experienced any of it for yourself, you must be like, what the fuck? That's how it feels to go through too. I'm not gonna lie. As odd as it sounds, it is that odd. And you will feel it. If you are having full-blown psychosis, maybe you won't. But if you're having attenuated psychosis, you will feel the strangeness. I don't know why it reminds me of that fucking image of a package of frozen peas and it says taste the penis. You will taste the penis for sure. If you go through this, the oddness will be very apparent to you. It is not lost on you at any point during all of this. Aside from the very beginning with the paranoia, it's hard to have awareness of that. But once all of the other stuff starts happening, like you start having like thought block and thought broadcasting and shit, again, given that you are in fact still aware, given that it is attenuated, you will notice, like, I've never believed in mind reading. Why do I believe in mind reading now? Good fucking question, pal. Time to go see a shrink. Get some pills for that. So that's the thing. Like, I thought I was in schizophrenia prodrome, but I also thought I was a pretender. I was like, what if I have delusional disorder and the delusion that I'm having is that I'm experiencing psychotic symptoms? Like, I'm delusional about that. And that's my only actual psychotic symptom, is that I am delusional that I'm experiencing psychosis. Like, as silly as that sounds, that's how imposter syndrome I got. Like, because I've never heard of this before, and that's why I want to talk about it, is because, like, people should know that that can happen to you. You can have psychotic-like symptoms and yet be aware of them, and you're going to feel like you're an imposter, and yet you're not. You're experiencing an actual, like, it's mentioned in the DSM-5. It's not a diagnosis in and of itself in the DSM-5, but it's mentioned specifically by name as something that needs more research. So it's a thing. It happens, apparently. And I didn't know that. But I knew I couldn't have been the first fucking person ever that it's happened to. So for me to have found that recently and to finally have language to describe what I went through is just, for me, it's groundbreaking. Like, absolutely monumental. Changed my fucking life to be able to say these things now. And to not feel like I'm just totally making shit up. Like, no, it's happened before. I'm not the first person. People know about this. This is a thing. And I went through it. And so now that I have that language, I can finally fucking have the closure and move on to the next stage, which is dealing with what that means. What does it mean for it to have happened to me? What does it mean for my future? How do I heal from this? What can I expect my life to look like from now on? Like, I can move on to all of those things now that I finally can say that definitely happened. I definitely wasn't making it up. It was real. Getting to that point has taken me so fucking long, and it's been so hard. But I needed to do it before I could get on to anything else. Like, I've felt trapped for so long, and it's because I haven't even been able to like fully say, has this really happened? Am I really going through this? You know, like they say the first step to dealing with a problem is admitting that you have a problem. Well, it took me like 2 years to finally get to a point where I can say that this is real. I have a problem. I'm actually going through something. You know, I haven't been sure of that until recently. And so now I feel finally prepared to deal with this, to make change, whatever I have to do, to get back as much as I can get back, and to cope with what I can't get back. Like, now I can do that, but it felt like I couldn't do that until I could figure out what was going on and like put a name to it, I guess. So that's the whole reason I've even cared about like a diagnosis, is like just having something that I can point to and be like, this is why I know that I have this thing. This is the context in which I exist. So now I can work from that position and try to piece together, use it as like a measuring stick to compare my reality versus consensus reality, to try to measure my behaviors versus what is a supposedly normal behavior, so that hopefully maybe I can guide myself through life a little bit better, having gained more knowledge about what I am and how I work, That's what a diagnosis is meant to me, I guess. Just the seeking of knowledge about myself, the strengthening of context, having a reference point. All of those things I feel important. As much as like, I especially had one counselor who really questioned the utility of diagnoses in general. And as much as I could understand a lot of what she was saying, I still feel like from the patient side there is utility in it. And it's a lot more like wishy-washy emotional stuff than you might like. You might want it to be more quantifiable than it is, but I don't know that it is. I think it is quite unquantifiable, but it's still important. Anyways, God, it's almost an hour. I've gone on long enough. I've covered the onset and sort of the acute phase. Not a lot changed. It just, it got worse until it stopped getting worse, and then it was stable for a while. And then it started getting easier. I don't have a whole lot to say about the taper off period. The onset was really the interesting part. The taper off period was kind of the same in reverse, where I just gradually noticed that I was having less issues with thought disorganization or the paranoia or the ideas of reference. They're still there, but it's a lot more subtle now and occasional. That's kind of all I have to say about the process of coming out of this APS episode. Or, if it's not APS, then one of the sort of transient psychoses associated with schizotypal personality disorder. Or maybe it's neither. Maybe I was right. Maybe I have delusional disorder and I'm delusional about having either of these other two disorders. I don't know. I don't fucking know. I can't even tell if I'm awake right now. Like, let's be real. I'm not the guy to ask, okay? Ask my prescriber and my counselor. Anyways, well, ask the neuropsych testing place once they actually get around to scheduling my next appointment. But that's besides the point. I'm going to get on with my weekend. It's Friday night. I work nights, so I'm wide awake. I'm ready to fucking just do nothing. I'm ready to play some video games and cook some food and sleep. And yeah, that's going to be my weekend. I hope you guys do the same. Fuck working. Let's go. I don't have anything else to say. I'll see you guys around. And if any of you are going through this, best of fucking luck. I hope you keep your awareness. If you look into the information surrounding APS, it's something like 30%-ish of people who have APS. It turns out that it was actually the prodrome for schizophrenia, and they do go on to lose the awareness, which is really worrying for a guy who's had it. Like, oh boy, do I still have that in the pipeline? I don't know. At my age, perhaps not. Hopefully not. I'll find out. There's a way to know, and it's to wait and see if it happens. So, anyways, to actually cut the video now. Bye-bye, everyone. See you around.